love to start by just asking if you would to identify your name, your film, and the role that you had on it.
Okay. Hi, I'm Loren Howard. I was producer, writer, and editor of Hitchin.
Hi, my name is Malik. My film was The Jello Consume film. I wrote, edited, and shot it.
I'm Peter. I acted in Will's film Popstar.
I'm Will. I made the film Popstar, and also Peter was a crucial collaborator who made some directorial decisions as well.
I'm Alex. I made Head Above Water. I wrote, produced, and shot and edited it all. Yeah.
Great. I'm really blown away by the work. There's so many things I'm curious to talk about, but I want to share with the audience that part of the idea behind this showcase and putting you all together, it includes a filmmaker who's not here from Quebec. But the idea is really to think about our filmmaking as a regional collaboration effort, and that we're telling stories from somewhat shared experiences of living in at least a part of the country together, but also that filmmaking is a collaborative art form and requires the support of other people to get it made. But, you know, when we say region, that can mean a lot of different things because people are coming from other parts of the country. Maybe you're here for school, grew up somewhere else. So I would like to ask each person to share what you want the audience to know about the context of making this film. There's so much that's outside the frame, right? And take that however you want, whether it was the support networks of people or place or origin of the story. But what do you most want to share about the context of making this film? And you can just jump in when you're ready.
I can go. So first of all, I just wanted to say that for anyone who hasn't made movies, it's often very, very hard, particularly as an emerging filmmaker. It requires, unlike many art forms, a mastery of so many different scientific principles as well, like audio and the technology of editing and things like that. So anyways, it's just wonderful to have community and funding to support young artists, particularly in the local regional area. So very grateful for that. And yeah, you know, part of being a student filmmaker is you break yourself over a movie, and, you know, people, you know, who are used to watching blockbuster films or, you know, kind of look at it quizzically and don't really understand. So it's, again, just really grateful to be here. The other thing is, I think this was just a project that Peter and I were having a lot of fun on. So I guess the context would be the whole film was just about having fun together. And at the end of the day, I think I would hope that that fun came across because that was our goal.
Thanks. Who would like to jump in next? And also, you're always free to pass on any question. You shouldn't feel held hostage here.
The context of my film, I made it last term for a class, and originally the idea was to, I don't know if anyone here is familiar with the Adult Swim web series Off the Air, but that was my original inspiration, was to kind of create this psychedelic experience. And after a long time of struggling with that, just very loose concept, I came to the idea of like wanting to represent the idea of consumption and conformity in a way that I understand it, which is an absurdity. But yeah, that's the context.
I would say the context for my piece, I had also done it in a class last term, and I think as an artist, I spent time thinking about how I want to express what I'm moving through and what I'm feeling, and how that can, and then I kind of express that through this written and filmed piece. And so I would say the context is it was sort of an expression of movement and place. And I think as I further figure out what I'd like to delve into film-wise, I want to honor what's inside and kind of see ways that that can show up in my films and kind of lead from that direction, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So our film, we were a 5-person crew, and it was for college. But for me, this was really fun to do because I wasn't director or cinematographer, roles I've been in before when I've written a script. So for this, it was really interesting to hand a script off to somebody. It also was a real good exploration for all of us in terms of the gear we were using. I won't go into the boring specifics, but it really was, we were upping the ante in terms of what kind of cameras and sound equipment we were using. So it was kind of a test of our abilities. So overall, Hitchin is, there's not a grand moral story I hope any of you take away from it, but I hope it was fun because it was a lot of fun for us to make.
Cool. Thanks. Well, Loren, that kind of teased things up a little bit for the next question I had, which was, what was the greatest creative challenge that you faced, and how did you overcome it? Or like stretch area? Like, what was your creative edge that you went to in making each of your projects?
I don't know if this will answer the question, but for like a long time, for at where I go to school, there's like a 10-week period, so that's a really short time to make a film. And for the majority of the term last term, I would go to the studio with my actor, who's actually here, Loren. And yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Loren, can we get a seat? Would you like to come up?
Yeah, but yeah, we would go to the studio, and like I really didn't know what I was doing, and I kind of went there just hoping to kind of figure out as I went. So that was like for a long time. I would just record, but like nothing would come of it. And eventually, I think like in week 6 or 7, I just kind of like one night I just sat down and I just realized like I was brutally honest with myself, like it's not working. And I started changing it up a lot, and I just like spent a night writing, and I don't know. It was just like one night that I just was able to kind of figure it out.
I have more questions about yours from a technical standpoint, but we'll come to that next. Loren, actors, would you come up and join us? Yeah. You take this one, and I'll grab another one. I love that we have 2 actors up here. That's amazing. Oh, Loren, we met. It's so great to see you again. So thanks for being here. Yeah. So I want to make sure that we have audience opportunity to ask questions, because otherwise I will dominate. Anybody? It's a little hard to see out there, but raise a hand. Chico's got a microphone so we can capture your voice. Any questions there? Well, while you're thinking, then that gives me the chance to dominate a little bit more. I like to have filmmakers ask each other questions. So would anybody like to ask another filmmaker a question about how they did their... Yeah.
What's your name? Sorry? Alex. Do you do dance?
No, but that is like a really big place that I want to edge into. I'm really interested in choreography and filmmaking and how that interplay and like what you can express there. And obviously that's present in your guys' film. But yeah, I am really interested in actually, and I'm going to start dancing in this summer.
Well, Peter, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you had some choreography in yours. So are you a dancer? And how did you work? And how did you work out those sequences?
So they were all basically improvised. So for instance, when I was on the floor of the stage, that was basically this floor texture writhing around. So Will was like, yeah, you want to like sort of do this dance sequence where you're like sort of like cringily dancing, like as if no one is watching you, and then get all the way down to the floor and like writhe around. So I enjoy dancing on the floor, like doing floor work. So yeah, I just sort of did that. Wait, what was sort of like the prompt for the dancing in the studio?
So the script changed quite a bit since the beginning of it, just because I think I have these delusions of grandeur when I start these projects, and then kind of have to come to terms with reality. And a lot of the inspiration behind the project was I took a gap year in between from 2020 to 2021 in college. And I became this total isolated person, and I was spending all of my time on TikTok, and I got this idea that I needed to become this TikTok sensation in order to feel good about myself. So that became this like delusion of grandeur. And so as soon as I woke up and like re-entered society, I was like, wow, that was such a weird phase of my life. What if I made a movie about that person that I was, who wanted to become, some fancy, famous person, but clearly could not do that. So yeah, I'm kind of rambling a little bit here, but I think that was part of the inspiration. What was I getting at originally?
I want to compliment you, Peter, and in the directing, in the differentiation between what's really happening and then who he is in his head in terms of performance. That was excellent. I want to talk about the director-actor relationship since we have that opportunity, and just we'll maybe come back to you guys, but turning it over to Loren and Malik for a moment. Can you talk about your relationship and any discoveries or challenges in the performance aspect, which was incredible, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, Malik and I know each other before the film. We met actually skateboarding, so that's kind of where our connection and relationship started. But also as filmmakers as well, it kind of had that overlap. And I was kind of helping him work through an original vision for his film, and offered to help out if he needed it. And eventually that becoming the lead in the film. But honestly, I don't think we had a lot of actor director conflicts or struggles that we had to go through. It was honestly really interesting when he would come to me with ideas for his film, like the Jello. That was very new, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So it was really fun just being able to take his ideas and try to incorporate it and see if I'm matching his vision. But it was a great collaboration, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree completely. Loren was such a great help, collaboratively on all sides of the film. I don't think I would have been able to make it without her, and Eduardo as well, who's an actor. He's not here, but he's not shown as much. But both of my actors helped so much in thinking of the shots and everything like that, and brainstorming. And yeah, definitely appreciate you.
It was I really appreciate the spectrum of the films in terms of what felt like a pretty powerful message in the film that you guys made. Can you talk a little bit more about how you translated that, the sort of concept into a cinematic language?
Yeah, I think that was definitely the part that was the hardest to do. I don't know what your perception was of the project, but I think from what I understood was you guys were not totally able to I wasn't the best in articulating what the final product would look like, but I think you guys just stuck with me throughout and were able to kind of understand that I was just working through it and help me work through it. So I don't know, translating it is always really hard, and I think I wrote a script, but not really, because there's no dialogue. It was just more of a action list or a shot list, I guess, more of. So I don't know, maybe Loren would be able to speak better on how I did that.
I mean, I think I understood generally where he was trying to go with the film originally, and I think every shot that we shot, I think I got a clearer understanding every scene that we did, and every item that he brought out that was encapsulated in the Jello, I think really helped me understand, oh, this is where the storyline is going, this is what you're trying to articulate. So in the end, I think it really made a lot of sense. The scene where I'm looking in the mirror and I'm kind of freaking out because my face is supposed to be melting and distorted. Obviously, it wasn't doing that as we were shooting, so it was kind of hard at first to understand, okay, what does he mean when he's your face is going to look messed up? And I'm like, what? And then seeing the final product, I'm like, oh, okay. So it was good to see that, I think.
So that was the direction he gave you, was your face is going to look messed up. Work with that, okay. It's powerful. And I wanted to toss the question about the writing and directing process over to you, Alex, since you had such a different kind of film. What came first, or how did the spoken word and image come together?
I spent a long time just writing, and now I started with a long kind of essay, and then broke it down more and more. And I think that process was the longest and most troublesome, because I wanted it to be very concise, and I think that was like my goal. And then I consolidated it even more once I kind of added the shots over it. I think that I filmed after I wrote it. It wasn't a kind of combined process, because I wanted the words to kind of direct where the shots would be placed. And then, yeah.
And they're from all over. I mean, I recognized New York and Yosemite, maybe? Yeah. So did you go on a road trip to gather the images for your film?
No, I had been collecting kind of imagery, I guess, throughout my life. Hence, I guess, the childhood videos of me, which my father shot. But
cinematographer.
Yeah, I know. But no, yeah, I think that was a big part of it for me. Like using that imagery alluded to what I was kind of saying, like having that video already done kind of added something to it. Like, and it wasn't like a full like process of gathering that in cooperation with what I had shot in the present time.
Thank you. I want to make sure the audience that we're looking at, okay, I see a question. There's Signa. I think Chico's going to run a microphone to you.
First, I want to say, awesome job. Those were amazing films. Congratulations. And I had a question for Hitchin. It's just, I guess I was sort of wondering, what would you like, because you sort of used the word fun, and that it was a lot of fun to make, but I'm wondering, what do you want people to take away from it? Because it seemed to have some sadness.
So the character is not a protagonist, I'd say. A protagonist in regard of, he's the main character, but you're not necessarily voting, for him to win by stealing from these people. So if there is a moral thing that I'm going to try to make a metaphor for, at the beginning he's at a laundromat trying to wash his clothes for work, and at the end he still doesn't have the change. He needs to dry his clothes to go to work. So it's sort of, he's in a cyclical thing of his own habits of stealing and lying to people. And as much as, there's funny things in that, I don't want to reference too many shows, but sort of, he's not an anti-hero, but similar to, something like Always Sunny. You're not necessarily rooting for him, you're kind of laughing at his downfall, but at the same time, you do have an emotional connection and sort of understand. By the end of the film, you find out he has a 6-year-old daughter. He's wound up in court. It's the one true thing he says because the third person actually knows him. So yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff, and we tried to write it to be funny. We want, there were certain things we wanted people to laugh at. Some of you didn't. That's okay. And some things that we didn't want you to laugh at that people did, and that's great too. But yeah, so I don't know if I'd say take that morality thing I just said to you and run with it, because I think take what you want when you watch the film, whatever you interpret. That's the most generic thing I've ever said. But yeah, seriously, when you watch a film, it's not always up to what the director or producer or writer wants you to feel about it. It's how you interpreted what they finished. Okay, that's my ramble. Thanks.
I have a question for Popstar. I was wondering about the music. Was that composed for the film or found, or where did the music come from?
I knew half of the artists, and I just texted them and was like, hey, can I use your music? And then the other half I DM'd on Twitter. So none of it was made for the movie. And I think a lot of it was focused around this new Gen Z hyperpop kind of internet recursive music. Peter, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, the character of Michael, my character, is designed to be obsessed with these hyperpop musicians. When he goes into his room, there are all these posters for Sophie and Charlie XCX on his wall. So yeah, we were really going for new generation, very, yeah, hyperpop basically. Hyperpop is the inspiration.
I'm wondering also, Malik, if you could talk about the sound design on your film, because it was some really strong choices, and curious how you went about that.
As far as the soundscape, well, for the class that I made it for, I have a really great professor named Siobhan Mizrahi, and she's actually a filmmaker herself, and in her film, she really, really focuses on soundscape, and so I actually had a class with her the previous term as well, and that was one of the things she kind of most ragged on me about, is the soundscape not being as developed. So for this one, I really tried to develop it more, and I still think it could use a lot more work, but I don't know. I think I just really wanted to, for those certain scenes at the soundscape, because for the most part, I think it's very minimalist, but for those certain, turning points or whatever, I just wanted to really induce, a sense of uncomfortable and, just disturbance, I guess. And so what I did for that, I don't know, I used Soundscape or freesound.org a lot. That was a big friend of mine. And I kind of just, looked up, specific things that might be slightly disturbing on themselves, but combined would really kind of come together to just make a cacophony of craziness, I guess. I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, sure. Any other questions in the audience? Do you guys have any other questions for each other?
Yeah, I actually have a question for Popstar. I really, really like this film, and I think for me it was nostalgic a little bit. There was moments where it kind of reminded me of early YouTube days, Smosh and stuff like that. And I was curious if you had any inspiration from.
Thanks. I mean, great question. Yeah, I grew up on Smosh. I don't know. I think that whole. It's hard to articulate, but I think there's something that's so. I think not to get too recur. I don't know. Anyway, so I think a lot of what I'm trying to figure out in this artistic pursuit is what is the disingenuousness of this whole internet culture of everybody trying to fluff themselves up. And so I think part of that exploration is trying to do kind of a comedy on it, of trying to expose some of the underbelly of okay, so all these people are talking about themselves as being these grand people. As trying to be someone who will eventually, hopefully, be in the film industry, connecting with people who often have huge egos. And so what does that look like on the ground level, on the other side of the phone, where someone is consuming this content? And
social relationships.
Yes. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, the only thing I had to contribute was parasocial relationships. My character feels like he knows and loves this Tender Tim character, when Tender Tim is a complete fabrication, or not a real person, just a persona. And yet Michael is willing to do all this stuff for Tender Tim and make a fool of himself, basically, in pursuit of fame. And it's all sort of a sham and a lie. Which, I don't know, is a little referential to YouTube, because people do form parasocial relationships to YouTubers and sometimes go to very bad lengths doing things that they think will please those YouTubers.
It's also just true that it's all kind of a scam. If you look at the algorithmic data of a lot of these social media platforms, TikTok in particular, I think the unique thing about the algorithm is that anyone can be famous. And so it's this addicting platform where people are maybe this is the one, maybe this is the one, maybe this is the one. And so I think it just creates this incentive of attention and, I don't know, just blowing up egos and whatnot. And so, yeah, anyways, fun to do some social commentary on that. Yeah.
So as we wrap up, I think that's kind of a perfect segue. We had an opening night film last night from Ukraine. That's a coming of age where texting and forming a relationship with somebody who's kind of a projection, and we're never really find out. Well, I don't want to say too much, but the time in which you all are becoming filmmakers is one where social media and the saturation of media is, it feels like it's at a peak. I don't know, maybe it's going to get even more so. But it raises the question for me about the urgency and importance of sincere storytelling and the context, again, of how we watch stories and how we connect with an audience through them. Can filmmaking be redeemed to still be something that is conveying something real about the human experience when there's this oversaturation of fake experience and fake relationships in a way. So I want to applaud you because I think each one of your films is doing brave work to ask important questions about who you are in the universe and navigating consumption and holding on to your voice as you move into your profession and making sense of the media environment you're in. And I would love to close with each of you talking about, the question everybody always wants to know, what's next for you, either in a job sense, if you want to answer it that way, but creatively, what might you work on? And you may have lots of things, so pick something that's close to the heart, if you would.
I'm making a movie about a nighttime custodian at a music studio who secretly starts recording music at nighttime. So if you want to follow me on Facebook, you'll get exciting updates over the next coming months about it. I also have a YouTube where I'm constantly posting skits, music videos, and other miscellaneous embarrassing things like backyard wrestling videos. You are not going to remember this, but it's called Ad by Normal Choward. Good luck with that.
What's next for me? I hopefully just creating films. Right now I'm currently working on another project with somebody else. It's like a completely collaborative, like we are writing a script together, or we have written a script together. Now we are almost done shooting, like finishing like a wrap on the shooting, and then we're also editing together. So I don't know, that's like you said, the collaborative aspect is like everything in filmmaking. I'm really enjoying that, so hopefully continue to pursue that.
And I'm going to insert the microphone here for Loren, and then we'll jump back over.
I'm currently wrapping up my screenplay right now that I'm writing as my final thesis. I'm a senior. And it's basically a story about a mother who's trying to provide the best life for her children as a single mom, yet seeking out support from family who, with their own past and trauma, are kind of combating that vision and how she's struggling to exist in that world and provide that life that she wants for her kids.
So I'm a senior. I am going to start a job in New York City this fall, which I'm excited for, and I feel like will enable me to do more artistic stuff. I'm also a musician, and I'm continuing to make and write music. What else? I would love to revisit Michael and work with Will more. And yeah, just do more acting because I really enjoy it. And this is sort of like my first time acting. And there are parts of my performance that I'm like, now, ooh, that I didn't really like how I delivered that. I could do that better. So I would like to do more of that.
Well, Peter, you're so easy to work with. Yeah, so Peter and I have been talking about Popstar too. I think it'd be really fun. But so over the summer, I will be working on a number of TV shows in New York, doing some like backroom tech stuff. I'm basically doing like for NBC needs like new tech systems to support their live broadcast rooms. So I'm working in software engineering for there. And then we'll be going to engineering school. So hopefully can maintain film as my central goal, but I've committed to 2 years of engineering school, and I'm not sure when I'm going to be able to pivot back. But luckily the school I'm going to has a great film school as well, so hoping to do some networking there. And the goal is to use engineering to do more filmmaking stuff and virtual production and other special effects fun stuff as well. I also have a question. It's Malik, right? Malik. Yeah. So I have a question for you when we're done or something. When I have time to do that. But. Oh yeah. So I was wondering what the significance of the wardrobes were, because I didn't know if they were purely aesthetic or if they were like also like meaningful in some other way.
Oh, sorry.
No worries. The wardrobe came completely from the film department, like closet. So it was part aesthetic, but also part kind of just what I had available to me, I guess. Yeah.
I am graduating tomorrow from UVM. And this summer I'm just going to be working at a commercial production company up in Burlington, just doing like commercial and branded work and assisting there. But I'm going to also spend the summer writing with some other film students and just being collaborative and just testing everything out and, you know, trying to make films.
That's great. Well, I hope that you guys will all continue, wherever your path takes you, to think of White River Junction and RIF and CATV and Junction Arts and Media as a home base for you. Think of this as a place to come back, to make films, to show films, to find community to help you do your work. It's an honor and a privilege to have had you here today and to show your work. So thank you and congrats. And stick around this afternoon and this evening. I hope you can join us at the parties and other screenings. And thank you guys all so much for being here. Wonderful audience. Thank you for all the support I know many of you gave to the filmmakers here as well. Thanks.